So I know earlier this year, a bunch of the academy players came up for preseason. What was it like seeing kids like that were like you a couple years ago playing
Yeah,
with this team?
it's definitely great for me to see that. I remember the first one that I went to, I was the only academy kid, and it's just kind of tough. I mean, you don't know anyone, and you're just kind of alone. But I think there are 10 guys this year, which is great, and they all did well. I mean, if any of you guys watched our preseason games, they were scoring and assisting, so it was great for those guys. And I think for any of you guys that want to be at preseason, you can play at that level as long as you put your head down and work. And all those guys were great with it. But I think it's a good example for anyone in the academy.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have
Yeah,
a question.
Mateo, go on, Mateo.
I remember you went on loan.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was good it was definitely the best thing at the time for me, because training every day, which I did for a while, was good. But at a certain point you have to play some games, and it wasn't happening at New York at the moment. So I went to Louisville, and the coach there was my coach for the under 17s with the US. So that's how the connection came up a little bit. But I think you just need to play a certain amount of games each year to keep developing. If you're not in the first 11, you have to find ways to do that. So, I went on loan that year, like you mentioned. I played with the academy a bunch that year. That's when I played in the DA finals. But yeah, it was just, like I said, the best thing for me.
Just on that one, James. Sorry, Mateo. In terms of when you say you're not in the starting 11, because I think that naturally happens, especially when a young player moves to the first team. So, what things were you actively doing for getting a loan now, where you were just training with the first team every day? What things were you doing to try and work your way into the starting 11, if that makes sense? What were your strategies? What was going through your head?
Well, I think I took the loan. Are you talking about the loan?
No, when you were the first team. So when you weren't on loan, so when you were training with New York City, and you're obviously you weren't in the starting 11, and you were trying to work your way into it. What were some of the things that were going through your head in terms of, because it's ultimately about impressing, right? Mm-hmm. So what sort of things were you trying to do to impress and work your way into the team?
Yeah, I think it was just trying to work that much extra. Oftentimes guys who are in the starting 11, whether they choose this or not, they think they have a place, and it's up to everyone else to push them. So I think that was the big thing for me, was pushing the guys ahead of me, and in turn that made me a better player. But yeah, I think, and like you mentioned before, if you're just training and you're not playing that often, you really have to show up every day. It can't be that you're playing well 2 times a week or 3 times a week. It has to be every day. So over time the coaches see that, and eventually they trust you to play in a game.
Cool. Chesko, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, before you got signed to the first team and you were training up, when you were training up still in the academy, like, what was did you have to change anything when you were training with the first team, or how did you kind of?
Yeah, I think I think what a lot of academy guys are surprised with is not that the technical level of the first team is amazing. It's high, but you guys are all good players. You're playing on a good team. I mean, I know you guys are one of the top teams in the DA and all that. So it's not really the technical level that's difficult. It's the speed of play. Guys are bigger, guys are faster. You just have to think that much quicker. And for me, that was the biggest adjustment. And I think I see that a lot in the kids coming up. They have all the ability in the world, but it's just about, playing that little bit quicker.
Thank you.
How do you think your development of your strength and like fitness and all that helped you to manage with the first team?
Yeah, I think like I just mentioned, the biggest thing about playing with professionals is their strength, their size, their speed. And that was a big focus the first year when I was not playing as many games. It gives you more time to work on the other aspects of your game. And a lot of people don't know this, but my first year, they took me out of training for 4 or 5 weeks just to work on my speed and my strength. just because that was the time to do it. When you're not playing, you got to think about the extra things you can work on. So that was big for me, and I think it translates well. I'll never be the fastest or the strongest, but you just have to be at a certain level to compete.
What are you doing to stay in shape during like quarantine and you can't really get to a lot of places?
Yeah, for sure. It's tough because everything around me is closed, all the public fields and all that. But there's a running program that the first team got. I'm sure you guys have something too, but you just gotta to find out what you can do, whether that's running, whether that's juggling around the house. Doing something is better than nothing at this point. So whatever you can do.
I'll fire one at you, James. In terms of what about the first time that you played in a stadium in front of fans, and like the emotional side of playing in a game? How did that feel?
Yes, the first, I would say, big game I played in was the preseason one in Ecuador, and that's probably to this point that's probably been the craziest. So I kind of got thrown right into it there, but the thing I remember about that was just you have so much adrenaline in the beginning, and then it just burns after 20 minutes, and then you're gassed. So after playing a lot of games, you learn how to control that adrenaline a little more. But that was the biggest thing I remember about my first couple games. Yeah.
Because I think one thing in terms of that, again, guys, I'm sure at some point we'll have to make the decision on, but the decision to go professional and not college is obviously a tricky one. Talk us through what your thinking was and why you decided on this route and what the plans are longer term for you, because obviously you're in a good place. So talk the guys through that a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely a conversation I had. All my siblings, my parents all went to college, so my parents definitely wanted me to go to school. But they came around to it after they saw how I did at preseason. And it's not the right thing for everybody. The club had a really good plan in place for me, which is why I signed, because I saw the long-term effects of it. But I have a twin brother who went to college, and he went to Georgetown, who just won the NCAAs, and I think he's doing equally as well. But I think it's just about timing and situation. You got to look at, there's a bunch of things like how many players are in your position, how the club is doing, what the coaches see for you, all those things you got to take into account. So I think it's definitely not for everyone, but you just got to make an educated decision.
I think it must link a little bit to like your long-term dreams and aspirations, though. I think in terms of,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean, signing pro, and obviously the route you're going down now. I think in terms of I think is a big element of like the dream, like the ambition, the goals. What is it?
Yeah, for me, it's always been to play for a top team in Europe, as I think it is for many of you, and you will develop a lot quicker playing with pros every day. And that was one of the big points the club made when I was deciding to sign, is that you won't necessarily develop as quickly at college. Just being in that environment every day is one of the best things for you. But like I said before, it really depends on the person.
Cool. And any more questions, boys?
I have one.
Go for it.
What's the social aspect of with your team? Like, how do you fit into that?
Yeah, it was for sure my first 2 years. It was pretty weird. Just on the field, everything's fine. In the locker room, it's all fine. But like all the team events, it's a little weird being that much younger than everyone. But I think it only really happened for me because I was the only homegrown for a while. Now you have Joe and Justin and Tavon, and you have a bunch of guys your age. Even the young pros are still 20. So I think it's much easier now than it was for me. But so I think any of you guys coming up, you'll fit right in.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So like, I know there's been like a lot of changes with the coaches over the past few years. So how is it like adjusting under a new coach?
Yeah, I think every coach I've had so far has had a little bit of a different style. So, for me, it was an adjustment. For our team, it's an adjustment. But, I think the best thing is to, learn a little bit from each coach, take the best parts away from their message and try and apply that. Obviously, it's not easy when you have that many coaches. For example, I did well under Dome, and then he leaves, and it's a little uncertain. So it's kind of like proving yourself all over again. But while you don't want to do that, it's probably one of the best things, because you can't be complacent, and you just got to keep working. You got to prove that you're a starter again. So while it probably didn't want it to happen that way, it may have been the best thing for me to have all these coaches.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just in terms of getting into the games now, a little bit around like the tech side of it, what would you say are some of the fundamental key things that would be consistent in the managers you've played for? So being a professional, what are some of the key attributes that you'd say, the managers, whether it's Dome, whether it's Ronnie now, what are some of the key attributes that are consistent that they're looking for?
I mean, I think, obviously they have a little bit of different styles, but, the first thing they look at is just, effort, because that's something, whether you're playing well, whether you're playing badly, you can always put your effort out. And if you're playing for the team, they'll definitely notice that. So I think that's been a consistent thing among both of them. And also, I think even though we've had different coaches, the system doesn't really change. They'll implement little differences that they have in mind, but the system is the same without the whole club, whether it's our team or your team or the U12s. We all play a similar style, and I think that it's made the transition a little easier.
I think for me, the important ones have kind of been covered, and James has been kind of mentioned it in a few different ways. Control the controllables, right? Like whether you're playing or not playing is what you're doing with it. And as he said, in the pros, especially, you could lose your spot so quick, right? It takes one or two different bad performances, and then all of a sudden maybe you're off, or a switch of coach, and now you kind of have to prove yourself all over again. No different than in academy. I think sometimes, we have good teams and things like that, but maybe you're not playing all the time. How do you find ways to keep pushing yourselves and working on your objectives? And I think Liam, Ugo, and everyone in the academy done a really good job of trying to keep you guys, pushing you guys as much as possible. But there's only so much they can do also, right? So I think at the end is what you do with it, and that grit, that fight to keep getting better every single session is ultimately what makes the difference. It's nothing else. And of course, talent is important, all these things, and game understanding and all this stuff, is how much are you willing to want to get better. And ultimately, for me, that hasn't changed. Seeing it from the academy side and the pro side, it's no different.
I think that's just jumping on that, Mehdi, as well. I think we talk about effort and commitment, and I think we sometimes undervalue how difficult it can be. I think to commit and be a professional, and seeing James trains like he does, it's an outstanding attribute to be able to turn up to work every single day and work to your max. I think people think about flair and creativity, and I'm good at this and that. I think that it's really, really difficult to turn up and max out every single day. And I think if you look at the very, very top sports people, I think they do it and they have it. And that's business, that's whatever it is. So I think, and I'm sure Mehdi, if you're right to stay on, I think, James, if we let you shoot, pal, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, thank you. See you guys.
Make sure you say thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So stay on, boys. I just want to, because while we got Mehdi, let's pick Mehdi's brains a little bit as well. I think now that James is gone, we can talk about him a little bit, because I think if you see him work, Mehdi, he's a little bit unique in terms of he is one that turns up and maxes out every day, right?
Yeah, and I think you said it right. Like in the beginning of the season, he wasn't in the plans, because new coach comes in and maybe doesn't know where to put him, or trying to fit him in where, is he center back, is he six, where do we put him? And I think he just went about it like, okay, every day, let's worry about what we control, train well, show up, give it everything, and then when you get your chances, you take them. And I think now he's arguably our most important player.
And you know what I really like about James as well is, if we were to ask him to play in the 19s next week, I can guarantee you his attitude would be exactly the same. He'd have no ego. He'd turn up. He'd do it properly. He'd be professional. He'd work hard. He'd compete. And I think that for me is what separates the real top ones to just your ordinary average ones. Fair to say, Mehdi?
For sure. I couldn't say it in better words. Yeah, I think that's for sure fair to say. I think you could see it with him. I mean, after training, he's probably doing all the right things to get himself ready for the next training. You know, and you can see in his demeanor. You know, he's really relaxed. He's chill off the field. He does all the right things off the field to give himself the best chance to be the best player he can be in the next session, not at the next game or the next tournament or next year. It's the next session. And I think just having that mentality like that having it only makes you better, because if you train at that high level and you push yourself every day, you're going to pass a lot of people, you know, and next thing you know, who knows, maybe it will be in Europe.
And I think to transfer some of that back into the context of your world, guys, I think not sitting here and saying it's easy for you, because look, you have to go to school, so you have to balance that. Some of you do a lot of traveling, so you have to balance that. So I think what each of you individually in your circumstances has to do is find a way that allows you to turn up to training to be able to give every single thing you've got for that 90 minutes, 2 hours. Whether that means prepping your food so when you're in the car on the way to training, you can eat so you're fueled properly. Whether it's dedicating time in the car on the way back to watch clips, whether it's, do you know what, I'm going to get there 10 minutes early, which you guys are good at, to do a little bit of extra work. That how that looks is completely different for all of you individually. But what you've got to do is put yourself in the best position possible to turn up, and that 90 minutes has to be the best session you've ever had. And we said it in, I know Hugo here, we said it when we were in Atlanta. Every single warm-up you do has to be better than the last one. That's the challenge. Every single session is going to be better than the last one. And if you can get that as a mindset, you're only going to get better and better and better. So I think it's find out what works for you, but then be clear that you have to turn up and max out every single day.
For you guys, I think we can't stress it enough. And if you notice, there's a lot of what we're talking about is not even about the game. It's more the mental side of like how you prep yourself, how you show up to the game, to the session, how you give it everything, and how you try to push yourself and max out, as Liam said, every single session. And how you deal with adversity, right? Like maybe you're having 5 really bad games. What do you do then? Is it time to start feeling sorry for yourself now? Does that affect your training? All these things that our Hugo sees, Liam sees, and you guys may not see, but these guys, I guarantee you do see it.
I think one other thing, just to ask you, Mehdi, as well, I think in terms of, because James spoke about it, and again, fortunate enough where I've worked in terms of talking about speed of play, because that's probably the biggest difference when you jump up in terms of intensity. And I think for some of you guys in your head around understanding what the game looks like, if you watch a training session, Mehdi, if you're talking about like the volume in terms of spent on basics and moving it 1 and 2 touch playing quick compared to skills, tricks, dribbling loads of 3, 4, 5 touches, what's the balance?
It's got to be, don't have to, maybe off, but it's got to be, most of it is 1 or 2 touches, because I think in the game, as you guys watch any game, everybody's on 3 max, maybe, right? And then maybe there's 1 or 2 that at the right moments will take people on. But those guys that are playing 1 and 3 touches see the game super fast. I mean, I think if you're a midfielder, if you're out of the back line, you're not taking more than that. If it takes you more than that to find a pass, that's an issue, because that's going to limit you moving forward, moving up, right? Like, I think if you play fast, you can almost move up and be fine, because you can play quick and you can never get yourself in trouble. But yeah, like the speed of the game is longer than what you need to be taking. You're going to lose the ball. And if you lose the ball 4 or 5 times in any one session, that could hurt your time to play and at the weekend. You know, the margins are that small, you know.
Yeah. I think that was a bit like in terms of, James said it around that, yeah, top players are 2 steps ahead in their head. They're thinking 2 steps, they're 2 passes ahead of everybody. And again, talking about habits coming into training, if you can train your brain to, right, before I get it, I know what I'm doing, you'll be in a good place, because you'll be able to play 1 and 2. It's when you, like Mehdi says, it's when you take 3, 4, 5 because you haven't got a picture, or, do you know what I mean? You want to have touches for the sake of touches. I think that's where, again, what we're trying to do is prepare you. So when you go with them, you're ready. So you understand. So we're trying to fast track you. So that's when I think you guys are, as a group, are really good. And Mehdi, obviously, when he worked with you, and Hugo continuing, and Rodrigo done a really good job in terms of I think you guys are really good at buying into that. So I think you got to keep buying into the process and understanding what we're trying to do is ultimately get you ready so that when you're James Sands, hopefully some of you in a year, 2 years, 3 years, that you go across and you train with Mehdi and the manager and the first team, and you actually, it's not too quick for you, and you understand the importance of keeping the ball and playing one touch, two touch, and being focused and working hard. So I think it's been a really, really good one. I think anything else, Hugo, Mehdi, from you guys?
No, I think for me, I think it's been really good to I wanted to just pop in and see how it would go and what kind of questions you guys would have for James. But also I haven't talked to you guys since probably I left. I think I've been watching you guys as much as I can, and it's been really good seeing you guys playing even better than when I had you. You know, like I think seeing some games like was really impressive. I think there's 2 or 3 things to take out of this: is how do I show up every day, trying to be the best player I can be, and 2, how do I get my objectives, work on them. I'm sure that's obviously been worked on, and keep getting better every single session, every single day. And I think if you just do that and focus on control what you can to be where you want to be.
Perfect. Hugo, anything?
No, it was just good to hear James talk about just the mentality and the attitude and how that translates now into this time when we're not training on the field, and what are the things that you guys can control. So maybe think about that, and what are the challenges that you have, and how can you buy in and make the best time out of this time.